I was bleeding out on the cold asphalt of I-95, clutching my 6-month-old daughter's car seat with a grip I didn't know I had left, while my own parents told the emergency dispatcher they were too busy with their dinner party to come pick her up. Can you even imagine that? Your only child is in a life-threatening wreck, and your response is to worry about the temperature of the sea bass and the social standing of your guests. I remember the paramedic's face, a mixture of pure professional focus and absolute, heartbreaking pity, as he overheard my mother's voice crackling through my speakerphone, complaining about how inconvenient the timing was. Was I wrong for deciding, right there in the back of that ambulance, that they would never see their granddaughter again? Tell me honestly, would you have ever spoken to them again if they left your child stranded at a crash site because they didn't want to ruin the vibe of a Saturday night? To understand how we got to that blood-stained stretch of highway, you have to understand the dynamic of the Miller family. My parents, Robert and Diane, are what I like to call performance parents. To the outside world, they are the pillars of the community, the generous donors at the local country club, and the couple that always has the perfectly manicured lawn. Growing up, I wasn't so much a daughter as I was a high-value accessory. If I got straight A's, they were proud because it made them look like genetic geniuses. If I won a track meet, it was a reflection of their superior parenting. But the moment I had a problem, a scraped knee, a broken heart, or a genuine crisis, I became an inconvenience. They don't do messy. They don't do emotions that can't be fixed with a checkbook or a polite nod. When I married my husband, Mark, they were thrilled because he's an architect from a good family. When I got pregnant with our daughter, Lily, they were over the moon, but only because it meant they could post Grandma and Grandpa photos on Facebook. The reality of being a grandparent, however, was far too gritty for them. They didn't want to change diapers. They wanted to buy the $400 smocked dresses and take pictures for 10 minutes before handing her back the second she made a sound. This brings us to that horrific Saturday. Mark was out of town for a conference in Chicago, leaving me alone with Lily. It had been a long week, and I was exhausted. My parents had been badgering me for months to host one of their elite circle dinner parties at their estate, and they insisted I drop by that afternoon to help with the floral arrangements. I didn't want to go, but the guilt-tripping was relentless. "We do so much for you," my mother would say, despite her never having actually held Lily for more than a few minutes. I finished the flowers, endured the passive-aggressive comments about my post-baby weight, and headed home as the sun began to set. The accident happened at 6:45 p.m. A drunk driver in a massive SUV swerved across 3 lanes and clipped my rear bumper, sending my small sedan spinning into the concrete median. The sound of metal crunching is something you never forget. It's visceral, like bone snapping. When the car finally stopped, the silence was the most terrifying part. Then, Lily started screaming. It was the best sound I've ever heard because it meant she was alive. I was pinned. My left leg was trapped under the dashboard, and I could feel a hot, wet sensation dripping down my forehead. I managed to reach my phone and called 911 first. Then I called the only people who were 10 minutes away, my parents. When my mother answered, I was sobbing. I told her, "Mom, I've been in a horrible accident. I'm trapped, I'm bleeding, and Lily is in the back. The police are coming, but they need someone to take Lily immediately so I can go to the hospital. Please come get her." There was a long pause. I expected a gasp, a scream, a "we're on our way." Instead, I heard the clinking of wine glasses and a soft laugh in the background. My mother whispered, "Oh, Sarah, really? Right now. The mayor is here and the caterers are just about to serve the first course. Can't Mark come get her?" I told her Mark was in Chicago. I told her I was literally being cut out of the car. She sighed, actually sighed, and said, "Well, Robert is about to give his toast. It would be so disruptive if we both left. Can't the police just take her to the station for an hour? We'll come by after dessert." I hung up. I didn't even argue. The rage that filled me was colder than the shock. The paramedics arrived, and when they saw I had no one to take the baby, they had to call Child Protective Services for an emergency holding placement because they couldn't take a healthy infant into the trauma ward of the specific hospital I was being rushed to. It was humiliating and heartbreaking. As they loaded me onto the stretcher, a man stepped out of the shadows. It was my grandpa Joe, my father's father. He's 84 years old, a retired mechanic who lives in a small apartment on the other side of town. He hadn't been invited to the dinner party because my mother thought his rough edges didn't fit the aesthetic. He had heard the call on a police scanner he keeps in his kitchen. He didn't say a word to me. He just walked up to the officer, showed his ID, took Lily's car seat in his shaky but steady hands, and looked me in the eye. "I've got her, Sarah. You go get fixed up. I've got her." So that's the situation I was in. I was headed for surgery, and my own parents had chosen a steak dinner over their bleeding daughter and stranded granddaughter. My 84-year-old grandfather was the only one who showed up. Before I tell you what happened when my parents finally showed up at the hospital and the absolute verbal destruction Grandpa Joe handed them, I want you to pause. Think about your own family. If you were sitting at a dinner party and got that call, what would you do? Would you stay for the toast? Comment below right now and tell me if I'm being too sensitive or if this is as unforgivable as I feel it is. I really want to see your reactions to this. I spent 6 hours in surgery to repair my leg and a deep laceration on my scalp. When I finally woke up the next morning, the room was quiet. Grandpa Joe was asleep in the chair next to my bed, with Lily's portable crib tucked into the corner of the room. He had stayed the entire night. About an hour later, the door swung open. In walked Robert and Diane. They were dressed in their Sunday best, looking like they stepped out of a catalog. My mother had the audacity to carry a bouquet of lilies, the very flowers she knew I was allergic to, but which looked cheerful for her social media check-in. "Oh, Sarah, darling, you look. Well, you've looked better," my mother chirped, reaching out to pat my hand. I pulled it away. My father stood at the foot of the bed, checking his watch. "Quite a scare last night. We came as soon as we finished cleaning up the house. That caterer really left a mess." Grandpa Joe woke up then. He didn't stand up, he just leaned forward, his eyes like flint. My father tried to play it off. "Dad, I didn't know you were here. You should have called us. We would have picked you up." Grandpa Joe stood up slowly, his joints popping in the silence. He walked over to my father, a man who is a foot taller and 50 pounds heavier, and he poked him right in the chest. "Robert," he said, his voice low and vibrating with a fury I had never seen. "I have spent 80 years trying to figure out where I went wrong with you. I thought I raised a man, but a man doesn't choose a dinner party over his child's life. A man doesn't leave his granddaughter to be taken by the state because he's worried about a toast." My mother tried to interject. "Now, Joe, you don't understand the social obligations." Grandpa Joe turned on her so fast she actually flinched. "Social obligations? Deanne, you are a hollow shell of a woman. You didn't want this baby to ruin the vibe? Well, congratulations. The vibe is ruined forever. Because as of this moment, I am changing my will. Everything, the house and the city, the farm, the savings, it's all going into a trust for Sarah and Lily. And if I ever see you near this girl or that baby again, I will personally ensure the entire elite circle knows exactly what kind of people you are. I'll take out a full-page ad in the paper if I have to. You are no longer my son." The silence in the room was deafening. My father's face went from pale to a deep, bruised purple. He tried to stutter out an excuse, but Grandpa Joe just pointed at the door. "Out, now, or I call hospital security and have you removed for trespassing." They left. They actually left, scurrying out like rats. In the weeks that followed, they tried to send apology emails, claiming they didn't realize the severity of the crash, despite me telling them I was being cut out of the car. I blocked them on everything. Grandpa Joe moved into our guest room for a month to help me, while Mark was dealing with the insurance and my physical therapy. He became the father I never truly had. The aftermath was exactly what they feared most, a loss of status. Grandpa Joe didn't take out the ad, but he did talk. He told his friends, who told their kids, who told the elite circle. Within a month, my parents were being uninvited from events. People don't want to associate with parents who abandon their kids at crash sites. My parents lost their social standing, and eventually, they moved away to a different state to try and start over. I haven't spoken to them in 2 years. Lily is growing up knowing that her big papa, Joe, is the hero of her story. She doesn't even know the other two exist, and I plan to keep it that way. Looking back, that car accident was the most painful thing I've ever endured, but it was also the most clarifying. It stripped away the masks and showed me exactly who people were. It taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when the world is literally crashing down around you. If you have people in your life who would leave their dinner party for you, hold on to them. They are the only ones who matter. Like this video if you think I did the right thing by cutting my parents out of my life. and subscribe if you want to hear more stories about people standing up to toxic family members. Do you think Grandpa Joe's reaction was too harsh, or did he do exactly what needed to be done? Share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.